Cherise Johnson Moore here, and it is time, it is time, it is time. It is time for Author's Excerpt Sunday. Yes, babies. And we have a special guest today, and her name is Kaleema Overton Ameen. Okay, Kaleema Overton Ameen. And she is the author of Hidden, oh my goodness, that's terrible, Sharice. Hold on. It is Hidden in Plain Sight. Her title of her book is Hidden in Plain Sight. And let's all welcome our guest, Miss Kaleema Overton Ameen. Hello, Miss Kaleema. How are you
Hi,
doing today? How are
good.
you
How are
doing?
you?
All right, all right, all right. So welcome to Authors
Thank
Excerpt
you.
Sunday. We are honored to have you on our show this evening, and we are so much, enjoyment of having you. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's get into some facts about Miss Kaleema. Miss Kaleema if- is a federal policy analyst specializing in healthcare policy and disaster relief programs. She is and has managed programs for the Center of Disease Control, Bioterrorism, and International AIDS Relief, the U.S. Department of Commerce manufacture programs, and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services pediatric mental health, just to name a few. After 23 years, let me excuse me, 23 years, I'm trying to, no, we don't want to, we don't want to give her more years than, but after 23 years, she retired from the federal government and is now working as a consultant to overseeing research compliance for federal research grants. Kaleema has just written her first book, okay? Her first book, Hidden in Plain Sight. This book was written in real time and became an organic step to healing from the psychological trauma of abandonment, of abandonment. Her book includes a series of interviews with women from diverse racial, socio-economic, and religious backgrounds. Kaleema's own journey included lodging a public complaint that resulted in an invitation to write a 7-series newspaper column. Kaleema's book exposes the grooming process that leads to psychological, economic, and spiritual abuse. She has a passion for volunteerism and co hosts an interfaith radio show that promotes community involvement, and she is available for speaking engagements. Welcome, everyone, Miss Kaleema Overton Ameen.
Thank
Hello,
you.
how are you doing today, Miss
I'm
Kaleema?
doing well. How are you?
I'm fine, darling. I'm so fine. And I wanted to say, how does it feel to write your first book?
I think I'm just really coming down from cloud nine. It's bittersweet. I've always wanted to write a book. I've been writing poetry and short stories since I was 12 years old. And so
Hmm.
I did always envision that I would write a book of poetry or a novel or something of, down those lines. And I say
Hmm.
it's bittersweet because I ended up writing a book after experiencing such a traumatic event. Um,
Hmm.
but I felt, compelled to write the book because I wanted to help other people, to avoid the trauma that me and my family went through. Because, when you experience trauma, those who are close to you and love you, they experience trauma too, and
Yeah.
we all, experience that trauma. And so, that's why I said it's bittersweet. I always wanted to write a book. I've
Hmm.
always been writing since I was 12. I majored in English Lit in undergrad, but I just never imagined that I would write a book of this capacity and for this purpose.
Okay. So, what inspired you to shed light on this topic through a series of interviews?
Well, what after and the trauma that we experienced was, my husband at the time took us on a family vacation and abandoned us there, and this we came to learn was a planned, event, right? And so when I experienced this, type of trauma,
Mhm.
it's not as if it's different from like a separation or a divorce. There's a
Yes.
conversation going on, you're making plans
Mhm.
to separate. But if you go away
Mhm.
on a family vacation, which was actually our wedding anniversary, and then the person is no more, it's
Oh.
almost like going on a vacation and someone falls off a cliff and you come back with one less person. It's that traumatic, if you can imagine. And so
Yeah.
after this occurred, um, and at the time, I was caring for my father in the home, and he was terminally ill with cancer. So this was part of the reason for the vacation, right? Because it was supposedly a vacation to help me to have some downtime because of COVID. We had not taken any vacations. And so once this
Mhm.
happened and I started, I was very vocal about it. I think people do things like this because they think you're going to be ashamed. And oftentimes people blame the woman. What did she do to make him do that? Just like with
Mhm.
assault, sexual assault,
Yeah.
even if you get mugged on the street, they want to know, what were you wearing? Where were you? Why did you have, why were you on that street? And
Yes.
I actually was very vocal about it. And then the more I talked about it and told people what happened, the more
Yeah.
women came forward and said, this happened to me. This
Mhm.
happened to my mother. This happened to my sister, my daughter, my niece,
Mhm.
and I'm thinking, why didn't anyone ever tell me that this was a thing? That people just walk off and leave their families without notice, never to be seen again.
Mhm.
And when
Mhm.
about people who are on like the outskirts of the community, you think, oh, this person must have had, something. We're talking about people who look good on paper, they're gainfully employed, they're, members of their religious community, they're
Mhm.
serving in sometimes public capacity, doctors,
Mhm.
lawyers, principals,
Mhm.
politicians, whoever,
Mhm.
and so sometimes people dismiss it and say, this is a poor people's problem. That's something that poor people are doing, something Black folk are doing, something that people who don't believe in God are doing, and they kind of dismiss it that way. So I wanted to
Mhm.
write this book after so many women, I mean, women in the store, in the bank, in the doctor's office, at work, after they started telling me about their horrific experiences with this, I said,
Mhm.
this is not a problem that we can brush under the rug.
Mhm.
And, and I remember well, I was talking to my brother-in-law, and I was
Mhm.
kind of feeling like, why is this happening? And he was like,
Yeah.
why not you? He said, you're the perfect person. He said, you have a platform, you have a radio
Mhm.
show, you're always
Mhm.
doing this, you're always writing, you're very outspoken, you're the
Yeah.
perfect person for this to happen to make it, to put it on a broad stage. And so that's what made me decide to interview women, because I was getting messages and they're saying, well, you're talking about the Muslim community. This happens in the Christian community. It happens, in all kinds of communities. And so
Mhm.
I decided to reach out to different people, counselors, therapists, to see if they would let me talk to any of their clients.
Yeah.
I was reaching out to clients from different backgrounds, African American, Caucasian, South American, Christian, Muslim, Catholic,
Mhm.
and just, because I'm a policy analyst and I like to
Mhm.
analyze and compile information, I wanted to find out,
Yes.
although all these women are so different,
Mhm.
so economically, education, ethnicity, everything is different. How is it they all had this same one experience? And even when you
Yeah.
read the book, you would think that we were all married to the same person because it's so
Mhm.
cookie cutter. So my
Yes.
policy analyst mind says, let me figure out why this is. How is it that these women from all these backgrounds have the same
Mhm.
exact story? It's like they're all
Yes.
telling the same exact story. My story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So, the stories that when you're gathering all the interviews from the women the women that you interviewed, were written in real time. What challenges did you face, and how did this organic process contribute to your healing journey?
Well, the challenges seemed at first to be insurmountable, because when I say I'm writing in real time, I'm writing
Mhm.
it during the time that this is happening to me. I'm
Mhm.
still trying to care for my father in my home. He's terminally ill. I
Yes.
eventually, within maybe 2 to 3 weeks of this abandonment, I had to put my father in hospice because I could no longer care for him at home because I didn't know how to use the IVs and things like that. And so
Oh.
while all of this is happening, I start
Mhm.
not writing the book, I'm writing the articles at this time. And I'm not even
Yes.
really thinking about writing the book. And then,
Mhm.
and so when I get to the point of writing the book, it was very challenging because the women were having to repeat the trauma that happened to them. And oftentimes they would say, I just can't talk about this anymore. So then I would have to wait because they were all in different stages of recovery. And even
Okay.
for myself, because I was doing it in the interview style, I had another writer to interview me because I didn't want it to seem like, oh, she interviewed herself and it's kind of, it just doesn't look good, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't, it takes away credibility. So
Yes.
I had another author to interview me and write my
Mhm.
case because they do have case studies, in the book, in the back.
Yes.
And when she wrote my case study, she finished hers first, but I'm still
Mhm.
interviewing the other women and I couldn't read my case study. I couldn't
Um,
read my interview. And every time I would go to read my interview, I would experience so much anxiety and it was just overwhelming. And I'm like, I'm not going to be able to write this book because mind you, everything is happening at this time. I'm in court. I'm going to hospice with my dad, all these things. And now I'm starting to have problems at work because all of this stuff is kind of piling down, just crashing
yes.
down on me. And so
Mhm.
I decided to put my interview aside and I
Mhm.
put it to the side and I wrote the book. Now we go back and I'm able to read my interview, but it's still very much, impactful
Yes.
because I think even now, my counselor, I'm in counseling, all so I
Yes. Mhm.
need to do that.
Yeah.
Counselor told me that I'm still talking about it as if it happened to someone else. He said, you're still not completely healed because you talk about it in the third person.
Yes. Yes.
He said you still have this protection of
Mhm.
yourself and you speak of it as if it happened to someone else. And so those
Oh.
are some of the challenges that I experienced and still experiencing, you know,
Mhm.
excuse me, with writing the book and the
Yes.
challenge that I experienced with the interviews because the
Mhm.
ladies were very much traumatized still from their experiences. So it was kind of stop and go for many of them because they would just say, I just can't just continue to relive this trauma.
Yeah. Um, I'm in a group. I'm in a group that deals with this topic very much so. And
Mhm.
the name of the group is Resilient Black Women Daily
Mhm.
Inspiration for Authors with our founder, Miss Ardenae Garner. And we talk about these topics in our group in a on Clubhouse. She has a Clubhouse, then she has
Mhm.
Facebook group and things like that. So I'm cordially inviting you to the group if you would like to be a part of the group. Okay,
Yes. Thank
uh,
you. Thank you.
and because we keep it like we keep it 100 in our group. We don't sit and where we take our blinders off per se, and and it is very therapeutic for us in the group when we discuss our emotions, we discuss what happened to us, and there's no judgment, there's no backbiting, no
Mhm.
backstabbing, no, just we discuss everything in the open. So I'm cordially inviting you to the group.
Thank you.
um
Accept
you're
the
you're
invitation.
welcome. You're welcome. And I want to ask, your book reflects the journey of healing from psychological trauma. How has the process shaped your perspective on relationships?
Whew. Well, I'm still in therapy. I'm
Yeah.
still healing. I'm still trying to get there. I still, so oftentimes, people will ask me about the book and think it's a male bashing book or it's a book that speaks out
Mhm.
against marriage, and it's neither. I'm
Mhm.
very supportive of men, and I tell the women that are reading my book, don't think because you experience this trauma from a man
Mhm.
that all men are going to be abusive, and you're going to need positive men in your life to get through this. There's no way you're going to get through this trauma without having some positive men to reinforce
Mhm.
not only
Yes.
in your life but in your children's lives, right?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so, in that marriage is still the thing to do. Now, right
Yes.
now, I'm not thinking about getting married. This is all like my book came out in October. This incident happened the previous October. It was very, I guess,
So it's
apropos
still it's
that a year to the date my book is published. And
mhm,
it's still,
fresh.
getting my I'm still fresh. But in
Yes.
the I do encourage people, and even now, I
Mhm.
would say, marriage is definitely the thing you want to do. We were not meant to go on indefinitely and be single people. And this could be a source of strength, but if you have the right person. And so I just wanted to, like, with those non-red flags, to somehow help people. And I'm not a marriage counselor. I have to, definitely be
Mhm.
transparent about that. I'm not a marriage counselor, but to help people understand these are some of the things you should be looking for if you're getting married, if your daughter's getting
Yes.
married, even if your son is getting married. Like, these
Mhm.
are some of the things you need to check off,
Mm.
because I checked off all the boxes, right? I asked all the right questions, but I didn't
Oh,
ask follow-up questions, and I did not ask for proof. And you can't take people at their word, even if they are members of your church, of your mosque, of your synagogue, members of your job, they go to your school, they seem to be safe people. You have to ask the right
mhm.
questions, you have to ask follow-up, and then
Yes.
say, I want to see proof.
Mm.
And with all
Amen. I
these
know that's
things done, then you do need to move forward with establishing a family life, because we do need to
yeah.
establish family life, you know.
Yes, ma'am. So true. So true. In dealing with the trauma, what role did community support and volunteerism play in your journey?
Well, definitely, I had the support of my community because I came forward. And
Mhm.
oftentimes, and sometimes it may not happen that way, but definitely you don't know what support you have until you come forward. And people who commit any type of abuse, mental, physical, spiritual, and financial, they're counting on you being quiet so they can continue
Mhm.
to commit the abuse, right?
Yes.
Like, so in
Yes.
that way, by being quiet, you don't have support. And so now you feel like you're alone, you're the only one that is happening to, you feel
Mm.
ashamed, you feel marginalized, you feel you may leave from your religious community and say, I just can't deal with this. But
Yes.
I found out by coming forward, which was a shock to everyone. I literally came forward before my congregation after congregational prayer and read
Mhm.
a formal complaint against my ex-husband to say, this is what he did. This is how he violated my rights as a Muslim. This is what I want to be done by the community.
Okay. All right. Okay.
It was a
I
very scary thing to do, but
totally.
I
Yeah.
found people were raising their hand. What can we do?
Yeah. What can I help you with?
Help you? What can we do to help your family? What can
Hmm.
we do to help you through this?
Yeah.
And so it gave me even more strength, right?
Yes.
And
Hmm.
so it's scary coming forward. And when any crime has been committed against you, and this is a crime, you know, and abandonment is not a crime per
Hmm.
se. It's an ethical crime, not a legal crime, but desertion is a legal crime. And
Oh,
so in this country, we have to catch up, because the way that it works is, the only time it's a crime to abandon your spouse or
uh-huh.
or someone under your care, or,
Yeah.
is if they are in need of medical support. If the person is ill, if they're, kind of feeble, if they have some kind of ongoing illness that requires
Mhm.
support, then it's a crime. But otherwise,
Oh,
it's not. But it
oh,
is, it is illegal to desert, which means removing financial support.
mhm.
And this
Okay.
is what happens to so many women. They're
Mhm.
abandoned and deserted, and they're living in their cars. They become homeless. They lose their health care. They lose their transportation. They lose their
Mhm.
homes, and they're on the street with their children because of abandonment and desertion.
Yes.
And
Yes, ma'am.
so, I think I answered your question, but then I kept going. So I'm sorry. I'll stop there.
It's okay. It's okay. It's totally fine, baby. It's totally fine. Can you share a piece of advice for individuals who may be going through similar experiences of abandonment and abuse?
Well, I would say the same thing. Now I can't say I would advise everyone to come forward to their
Mhm.
community in that way if they don't feel safe in doing so. Because the first thing
Okay.
you want to always think about is your safety, not just your physical safety, but your emotional safety. And if you feel that you're coming
Mhm.
forward is going to bring down more, abuse psychologically,
Mhm.
spiritually, emotionally, then it may not
Yes.
be safe to come forward in that way. So I would not advise everyone to do what I did, you know.
Oh, okay.
Or I
Uh-huh.
would advise you always to come forward to at least one individual and let them know
Mhm.
what's happening to you or your family and your friends.
Mhm.
I found out
That's
why I started talking about it. I had a couple of friends, excuse me. I had a couple of friends that had experienced this like 20 some years ago. They never
um,
thought they weren't talking about it. Of course, it was 20 years ago. So if
uh-huh,
you come forward to at least one person, you may find that they say, "This happened to me, and this is
uh-huh,
I survived. This is what
okay.
I do." But you don't know. They can't help you if they don't know you need help.
Yeah.
It's hard because for myself, I'm a helper and a doer by the nature
Yes.
of my job and my profession.
Uh-huh,
Even by the nature of I had, during COVID, I took my dad out of a nursing home and moved him into my home to care for him.
mhm. Yes.
But now I'm the person I'm like really at rock bottom now. I go away on this vacation. The husband leaves us there. We make it back home. We don't hear from him again.
Uh-huh,
Now I'm taking him to court. Now I'm finding out this is all planned. Now I'm finding out he's done something similar in the past. And now my whole world kind of implodes like a bad Lifetime movie.
oh,
Literally.
she,
It's like a
oh,
bad Lifetime movie
it's a
because it's a
movie.
new person that I was married.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
don't know who this person
Yes.
is. And people have
Yes.
double and triple lives that you don't know about, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So true. So
being
true.
in that position and being a doer,
Mm-hmm.
I was in the reverse, but that's the way to create and make it sometime. I was in the reverse and now I need all kinds of help. And I was
Yes.
reluctant, but I had to, even with my reluctance, I had no choice because I was sinking. Like I was
Yes.
sinking. I had been literally almost kicked from a cliff and I was free falling. And free
Oh,
falling
yeah.
off of a cliff.
I know that. I know that feeling. That's not
Yes.
a good
Yeah. And just before I hit the bottom,
feeling. Hmm.
the creator pulled
Yeah.
that parachute. I say my book, my trauma gave birth to the book, but it was my
Yeah.
parachute because I started
Hmm.
writing and I was researching not to write a book. I initially started researching because that's just my nature, trying to find out like what kind of people do this.
Yeah. Right.
Research the person.
Who
Then
would
you
do,
do a
like,
background
who
check.
would do it?
You're like,
You
wait a
know,
minute, you look good on paper, but there's some stuff in here that I probably should have seen.
investigate it.
Right. Because
Investigate.
yeah. And it's so surprising that it's so cheap to do a background check on someone. It costs next to
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
like it's next to nothing. And
Mhm.
sometimes some people are very, good and professional on paper, but you will find
Mhm.
something. You might find that, wait a minute, this person has multiple leases in their name. They have multiple residents. What's at this other residence? And so
Mhm.
those simple things that you can, these, I mean, and you don't want to feel like you have to be a detective for every person that you meet, but you actually do. You have to trust but verify. You have to ask questions
Yeah.
and
As
ask
my yeah,
questions.
as as my grandma say, you better find out all you can find out when you can find it out, and make sure it look good. Everything look good to you ain't good for you.
All new broom, sweet clean. That's what my grandmama used to say.
Right, right. You know, and and the thing is I've experienced abuse with my first husband, where it was just that I married him for all the wrong reasons, but I didn't realize that he was dealing with some mental issues as well.
Mhm,
And I realized that the more we were together, I realized, that was something about him, and his not having his mind together caused us to live in this state of, I'm just out here willy nilly, and I don't, I'm gonna do what I want, and I don't have to, it was not being he was not the responsible person,
mhm,
and and I don't, and he became started doing drugs, and then he became violent, and then he thought I was a punching bag, and I said I don't think so, especially after both my eyes were black and my nose were busted, okay, and my lip were busted. I was like, no, I don't have to take this abuse. So I decided to return home to my grandmother's house in Virginia. And at the time, we was in Tuskegee, Alabama. So you know how country that is. That we was
mhm,
in the woods. We was
mhm,
in the backwoods. And only thing about Tuskegee was the university. I could, it was right there in town, and we lived down the road. When I say the country, we was down the road. So
Mhm.
and it just I realized that, but as I reflect on it now, is that wasn't what the plan God had for me.
Mhm.
That wasn't the plan God had for me. It wasn't the we look at stuff and we look at the person, and you look at it, when you look at it, you be like, okay, well, that God was protecting me from this person. He let me see an inkling of what this person was about, but he
Mhm.
opened my eyes wide enough to see what is really going on. So God says you have to make a decision. You have to make a decision about what you're going to do with this situation. Either you're going to crumble behind what's going on, or you'll flourish.
Mhm.
And I decided, well, I'm just going to flourish. I don't, and um and before I decided to leave Tuskegee, I found out I was pregnant.
Oh.
So I was like, okay, I'm gonna just go ahead, do make it do what it do, Lord. And I went back to Virginia and returned and had my son, and did the best that I could, and God, in my book, Coming to Loving Yourself, I talk about that. It's about what do you do when traumatic stuff happened to you, and how do you bounce back from that? Do you, and everything that I've experienced from that, from my traumatic experiences in my life, it causes me to have a guard. It causes me to have my guard up about men folks, about people telling the truth, even believing anybody, and it became a way of life. But now that I know that life doesn't have to be that way, if I hone in on what God is asking me to do and stabilize my relationship with Him and make Him the priority first, instead of trying to rush and go to be somebody else and jump from this relationship, just sit
Mhm.
down,
Wait.
concentrate on God, let Him tell you what to do, and you go from there. And that's what I learned from my traumatic experiences. And the thing is we can't be in a hurry to be with people because we're afraid of being alone.
Yes. And I wasn't even the crazy part is I wasn't even looking for a husband. I wasn't even thinking about getting married. And so
Mhm.
one of the things that I uncovered in my book and exposing the grooming process is these
Yes.
types of people, this type of behavior is something that's definitely characteristic of narcissistic personality disorder. And oftentimes people use the word narcissism, they throw it around loosely to explain all bad behavior. We're all bad
Mhm.
actors, not narcissists, okay?
Yeah.
Some people
Right.
just have bad behavior because they're just mean individuals. They lack home training. They have some experiences of their own that they're pushing off on others. But narcissism is definitely a grooming process, right?
Mhm.
It's a step
Yes.
by step cookie cutter process. And so that's what I found out. These people will seek you out before you even when you meet them for the first time. That's just you meeting them for the first time. They've
Yeah.
already been circling you like a hawk.
Mhm.
They're
Yeah.
coming in, landing for the kill. They've already done all of this stuff. They already know your habits, your patterns, your family, your friends. They're just watching, watching, watching. And so
Mhm.
it's a predatory behavior,
Yeah.
you know, and it's something that, like I said, they'll groom you, your family, your friends, your coworkers, the neighbor, the
Mhm.
dog, the mailman,
Mhm.
the bird, everybody's
Everybody.
getting groomed in
Yeah.
this process. And this is
Mhm.
beyond bad behavior, you
Yeah.
know. And
Mhm.
so, but even with someone who results to physical abuse, oftentimes
Yes.
that is also a result of narcissistic personality disorder or some narcissistic traits, which doesn't mean
Yeah.
you have the disorder. I
Yeah.
did find in my, while doing the research for my book that only about 10 to 15% of people actually are diagnosable with, narcissistic personality disorder.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean
Mhm.
they don't have narcissistic tendencies and behaviors that are
Yeah.
also harmful. It's like
Mm-hmm.
the difference between having a cold and the flu.
Yeah.
Either way, you need to put on a mask so you don't get, so you
I don't
don't get
get
sick
sick.
from it, right?
I
Either
don't
way,
get
you
sick.
yourself and you need to put on
Yeah.
a mask for either one.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. So reflecting on your experiences, how do you see the intersection between personal healing and advocating for social change?
Hmm. Well, I think, you know, in my book, I say in the beginning that this may be premature, me writing the book, because I'm just now, I'm still in my healing process, like literally,
Mhm,
just months away from the trauma.
mhm.
But
Yeah.
I did feel like that if I didn't go ahead and write the book, that I could not be as helpful to some who may need it right now.
Yes, ma'am.
So I need to really put aside that and that's I think why I think about it in a third person because I looked at excuse me,
Mhm,
I looked at it from a professional
mhm.
standpoint that I was
Yeah.
analyzing policy and procedure. I'm going to analyze,
Mhm,
provide the recommendations. That's what we
mhm.
do at work. We analyze a process, we analyze a program, we look at the
Yeah.
holes, the gaps in the program. We say, oh, this is going to
Mhm.
solidify and make a solid foundation for the program. These things are
Yes.
missing. That's what I was doing. And so doing
Okay.
that, I was able to work through a lot of my trauma, just
Yes.
understanding that this is indeed a psychological disorder that people have.
Mhm,
Doesn't excuse it, but it allowed
mhm,
me to see it from that side to say, hey,
mhm.
nothing I could have done to prevent this.
Yes.
When someone is out to manipulate, abuse, sometimes, oftentimes, the victim, there was nothing you could have done to
Yeah.
prevent because the
Yes.
person had a plan. The only thing new about their plan is you because they've done it before. When the
Um,
robber gets caught, he's probably robbed a couple of banks before they catch up to him. Same thing
right.
with someone who commits sexual assault, whatever the
Mhm.
crime they're committing, by the time
Yeah.
they get caught, and this is statistics, this is not
Yeah.
me making it up. By the time they get caught, they've done it multiple times.
Yes.
But so the same goes for grooming and manipulating women mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially. It's not their
Mhm.
first time at the rodeo. It's your
Yeah.
first time at the rodeo, but not
Mhm.
their first time at the rodeo.
Okay. All right. I know that's right. So, Miss Miss Kaleema, where can the audience get your book?
Okay, well, my book is available at Barnes& and Noble, Amazon,
Mm,
Google Play, and iTunes. It's also on Kindle. Um,
okay.
so right now it's available in all of those places. You can go
Hmm.
to to their website and Google my name and it'll
Hmm.
come up. You can also go to my official page, author Kaleema Overton Ameen, and there's links there to purchase the book. And
Hmm.
so that's where you can get it.
Okay. Um, I want to thank you so much, Miss Kalima, for being our guest today. And like she said, y'all can get it at Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, Google Play, iTunes. And you can go to her official Facebook page. Miss Kalima, do you have a website?
Yes, I will. The website is also on my official Facebook page. Um,
Okay.
and so the website is there. The Zoom, I'm sorry, the YouTube channel is up. There's a few things there, but we haven't started it. There's interviews there from the publisher and things like that. I'm going to
Okay.
start putting that out. I've been pushing things out in layers because it's kind of
Yes.
overwhelming to do everything at once. And
Uh-huh.
so I'll start to promote the YouTube channel and now actually have, interviews like this as well on
Mm.
the YouTube channel.
Okay, okay. So, what do you have planned for the future, dear? Have
Well, um,
engagement? Uh, you
hmm,
know, you have any future engagements
oh
where people
yes,
can find you?
yes, I will be in I have a speaking engagement in Williamsburg and Richmond. I've been working with an organization called Wellness at Work, and they're
Mhm,
talking to employers about how to make sure they create an atmosphere of mental health wellness,
mm,
at work. So I've been working with them, and we have events coming up in Williamsburg and Richmond. I will post those to my page.
mhm.
Um, there's going to be a retreat in Charleston, South Carolina. I'll post that information. It's with
Okay.
that same organization.
All
Yes,
right.
that's a smaller one-on-one. I mean, not one-on-one, smaller. um, events around Hampton Roads, Virginia. When I
Yes.
had the book launch event, it was a large event and it had like music and entertainment and all this. But right now, what we're doing is going to smaller venues and having
Mhm,
20 to 30 people, and we
mhm,
have a discussion around those 9 red flags and those
mhm.
8 steps to recovery from mental, physical, spiritual, and financial abuse.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Well, Miss Kaleema, I pray that you have much success with your book.
Thank you. I wish
You're
you much
from
success
my
as well.
home. You from my hometown because I'm right there. I used to live in Portsmouth.
Oh,
So
okay. I'm from Elizabeth too, originally.
yeah,
Yes,
I used
yes.
to live in Portsmouth. I used to live in Norfolk. I used to
Okay,
live in Hampton, Newport News. So that is my stomping ground. You know, that's my stomping ground.
okay.
So it's nice to meet a fellow a sister from my old stomping ground. It's so happy, so
Yes,
delightful to meet you, and I pray that we will be seeing and collaborating in the future
yes, ma'am.
when it comes to speaking events, other events that we could work together with. So, Miss Kalima, I greatly appreciate you coming in today. And if you don't have the book, please go get it. Okay,
Go
go get the book.
get
Go get
it.
the book. Go get it. It's called Hidden in Plain Sight. And sometimes we out here, we women, and we have to keep our eyes and ears open. And just because it look good to you, don't mean it's good for you, right? So it says
Right.
Hidden in Plain Sight by Kaleema Overton Ameen, and it is Are You Being Groomed for Love Bombing, Spirit Breaking, and Abandonment is the title of her book. And thank you, Miss Kaleema, for
Thank
coming
you
on
so
Author
much
Sex
for the
Sunday. And
invitation.
you're welcome. You're welcome. And I love you. And I pray that you have a blessed night. And I will talk to you later, dear.
Okay.
Okay.
You have
All
my
right.
information.
Thank
Reach out
you.
anytime. Okay. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Blessings.
All right. Yes, we are. We are here. We are here. We are here. We are here for the evening, and we just had a marvelous interview with author Kaleema Overton. Overton, I mean, yes. And the title of her book is Hidden in Plain Sight. Hidden in Plain Sight, child. I ordered the book already. So because I believe in supporting authors when they are doing their thing, they're doing their thing. So I wanted to say thank you, Miss Kaleema, for coming on Authors Excerpt Sunday. If you are an author and you would like to appear on Authors Excerpt Sunday, don't be shy. Reach out to us through the email address snjm@sharicenjohnsonmoore.com or the website http //sharicenjohnsonmoore.com. It is in the ticker tape at the bottom of the screen. Okay. So I wanted to welcome all authors. I want to put this out there. If you are an author and you would like to be on the show, let me know. Reach out to us. Reach out and let us know that you would like to be a part of Authors Excerpt Sunday. Okay. And and just come on and share your book with the world. Okay, baby, share your book, share your knowledge, share your information, share everything that you bring to the table with us as an author, because it's plenty of reading enthusiasts out here that do watch the show, and have had people come and ask me, okay, so how do I get in contact with that author? I want to get this book, and they will call me and ask me, and then sometimes I've even gotten calls from, well, do you know this author, and is she gonna be on your show? And then I will have to go find the author, and then be talk to them about the show and tell them that people are asking about them to be on the show. So I've had that happen before for Authors Extra Sunday. So I wanted to say thank you everyone for being here in the place to be, Authors Excerpt Sunday. And we're gonna call it a night, okay? Like I said, you want to be author on Authors Excerpt Sunday? The information, contact information is at the bottom of the screen. If you missed this episode, you can always watch the replays on my YouTube channel. On the YouTube channel, Sharice Johnson Moore is the YouTube channel's name. Okay. And I want to say thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I want to let you know episodes of Authors Excerpt Sunday can be heard on Sharice Johnson Moore's podcast on Spotify. Okay, Spotify, Apple, and Google. Okay, and 8 other distribution channels for podcasts: iHeartRadio, Overcast, Verbal, Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, Verbal, Castbox, and it's so many other Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and the thing is that you can always listen while you're driving. Okay, you might be doing dishes or something. You can still listen to the podcast. Okay. So I love you all, and I want you all to have a good night. Okay, babies? And I love you, love you, love you. All right, now. See you next Sunday on Authors Excerpt Sunday. Bye, babies.